so let's resume from number 29.
Can I get you some water?
Yes, please. 29, the last time we met, that was where we left off, so we will resume from there as well. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لا يتخذ المؤمنون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين ومن يفعل ذلك فليس من الله في شيء إلا أن تتقوه منهم تقاء ويحذركم الله نفسه. Okay, so this ayah we went over and we said that its meaning, well, the obvious meaning, the first thing in the translation is that the believers should never take those who do not believe as protecting friends. Let's just use the word protectors here. Other than believers. Whoever does that, then this has nothing to do with Allah, if you will. I mean, I don't know how he translated it there, but that's how I'm translating it. فَلَيْسَ مِنَ اللَّهِ فِي شَيْءٍ. Meaning it has nothing to do with Allah. In other words, this is not something that Allah has commanded us to do. It's not part of the deen. And if you do such a thing, you've done it. What's the implication of that? If it's not something Allah wants from you, if you did it because of your own nafs. It's something you wanted to do without any provocation or also without any type of command from the side of your Creator. So it's your own initiative. That's another way of putting it. Understand? If you do it, it's of your own initiative. It's not something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to do. And the only result, this is the other thing that it means, وَمَن يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ. So the style that's being used in the Arabic language, this is called, in Arabic it's called shart and jaza, which in English at the moment I cannot think of its equivalent. So it's kind of like saying, if you do this, this will be the result. So there's a shart, meaning if this happens, then there's the jaza, the result. Then this will happen. Cause and effect is, what it is in, but I don't know, grammatically I don't know what that's called, but it is exactly cause and effect, which is what I was just going to say. So this happens, this will be the necessary result of what you did. Okay? So then what would the meaning be if anyone is following? If you take those who do not believe as your protecting allies, as those, and even that should be explained because a lot of people maybe don't understand what that means, so I'm just going to ask, if this is not like that. You're not being quizzed, obviously, but just to see where our minds are. What does it mean, awliya, in this context? You should not take non-Muslims or non-believers as awliya.
Allies?
Right. Understand? So there's a big difference between translating it as allies as opposed to translating it as friends, something like that. Because if you say friends, then there's some confusion. People will think, well, does that mean you shouldn't have a friend who's not Muslim? You know, like some people do that, right? They get confused and they read translations of the Quran and they say, well, what does that mean? I can't befriend someone because they're not Muslim. And it's not the implication. This implication, first of all, is much more general than just on a personal level. This, you can say, is more on an international level. Okay? Now, politics in our time has become a dirty word, right? Siyasa. But there's no way around it but by saying that this is somewhat a political issue. This has to do when the Muslims have some type of centralized authority. They live together in a majority, and even you could say in certain countries, whether it's Pakistan or anywhere else where the majority is Muslim, they claim to be Muslims. Most Muslim countries still claim in their constitutions and otherwise that they're Muslim. That's the official religion. You understand where I'm getting at, right? So although they don't have a centralized authority in terms of a khilafah or a sultan, but there are Muslim countries, there are Muslim societies, so there you go. Got it? So in the context of these particular situations, what does Allah say? That's what we're getting at. He's saying that you should not take people who do not have iman as your allies. And that too should be further explained because there are times and places where that's permitted. Can you ally yourself with a nation that's not Muslim, for instance? Can you even fight, frankly speaking, in a war together as allies? The answer would be yes. And even in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, that happened. So then, okay, that further reduces everything, all the other possibilities and probabilities about the meaning of this, right? So what exactly is being said here? What is being said here is that you should not compromise yourself or your deen to ally with non-Muslims for the expediency of power or wealth or anything else. Understand? Whether it's militarily, okay, or economically. You do not sell out yourselves, in other words, to become the allies of those who do not believe in Allah. You understand my point? Now, without giving any names, I'm sure that you can understand in very recent times and contexts that I'm trying to allude to here. Do I have to give names? No, right? So we basically economically, not just we, even the United States of America, are so tied to a particular nation that no one is willing to say anything to them about their policies. Correct? This is a perfect example of what this ayah is saying. When you do that, and this is what Allah says after that. So first of all, the first thing Allah is saying is that فَلَيْسَ مِنَ اللَّهِ, or excuse me, فَلَيْسَ مِنَ اللَّهِ فِي شَيْءٍ, which means that, again, if you do this, the first thing you have to know that you were not ordered to do this. This is your own nafs, meaning this is your own initiative. You did this because you, for some reason, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. You're scared, you feel yourself to be powerless, you feel that you don't have the resources, the economic strength, and so forth and so on, that you need to just go ahead and sign the deal. You understand my point? There's no reflection, there's no thought whether this is really something good for us as Muslims, or even not just us as Muslims. Again, the reality of our ummah today is we are often people who are simply, how else can I put it? We talk the talk, we don't walk the walk. We're people of slogans, where the ummah actually should be people of action. So as an example, I just gave a khutbah, and just simple examples. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the munafiqun and the hypocrites in the Quran, He always mentions the things that they say. Do you understand? The things that He talks about when He mentions them are the things, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُعْجِبُكَ قَوْلُهُم فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, as an example, وَهُوَ أَلَدُّ الْخِصَامِ, Surah Al-Baqarah, that there are people who impress you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with the things they say in this world. Meaning that the only reality that these words have are in this temporary world. In the next world, where there's no such thing as faking things, where you can only say what's real and what's truly from the heart, you understand, that won't happen. But in this world, these people impress you greatly with the things that they say. And just looking at that too, you have to ask the question, what kind of things would impress the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Talking about the game. You understand my point? Like what kind of things would you have to say to Rasulullah to impress him? So in other words, they would say things, they would boast of their allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. They would boast of the things that they would do. If you look throughout the Quran, it's already explained to you, like, we will expend everything we have for the sake of Allah. We will do anything for you, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, people, that's a slogan too now, right? Ya Muhammad. We love you, we'll do anything for you, we're there for you. They talk. When the time comes, what do? They run the other way. إِذَا جَاءَكَ الْمُنَافِقُونَ قَالُوا, the same thing in Surah Al-Munafiqun. When the munafiqun come to you, they say, see again, what is it? What's the primary thing here that Allah mentions about every time? Their words, that with their mouths, يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ, they say with their mouths and their tongues. In other words, they say things مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ, which is not in their hearts. But when they say it, they say with such emphasis, even in the Quran and the ayah just mentioned. What do they say? قَالُوا إِنَّكَ لَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ. This is like in Arabic. This is why the Arabic language, if you study it for the sake of knowing the Quran, its expressions, this is the miracle of the Quran. So it's like saying, you know, there's no stronger emphasis in the Arabic language than using inna, and then there's a lam, what they call lam al-ta'kid. So when you say innaka la Rasulullah, you could have said just, you know, anta Rasulullah, as an example, which just means you're the messenger of Allah. But when you say innaka la Rasulullah, it's like you're just like, it's like a person, you know, nari takbir, you know, like they're just, you are the messenger of Allah. Halanke, what are they? Hypocrites. They don't mean a word of it. So their words are strong. Their words are impressive. Their words make you really think twice, even about yourself. That maybe I had some doubts about these guys, but man, they're so passionate about what they say. You understand? They're so passionate about what it is that they claim. What does Allah say about them? يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ, they say with their mouths, مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ, it's not in their hearts. So why am I going through that, all of that? The reality is the Ummah should feel a type of unity amongst each other no matter where they're from. So you may be from Pakistan, but you should feel for Muslims in China. You should feel for Muslims in Myanmar. You should feel for Muslims in West Africa and Central African Republic. You should even feel for the Muslims in London. You should feel for the Muslims in America. You should feel for the Muslims in Argentina. Wherever there's a believer, there should be some kind of connection. So in regards to that, when Allah speaks about the Sahaba, He never talks about the things they said. He talks about the things that they did. And amongst them, He says, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. They would prefer others over themselves, even if they couldn't take care of themselves. In other words, even at the expense of their own needs, they would prefer other people. You get the point? Now, who's saying this? Allah. Is there any reason for Allah to be fibbing? Does Allah not know these people? إِنَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِذَاتِ الصَّدُورِ. Allah knows the very deepest secrets of our hearts and minds. So when Allah is saying this, it means that this was their reality. It wasn't a slogan, unlike the munafiqeen. It wasn't something they just talked about. We're an ummah, blah, 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 slogan after slogan. It was something that the Sahaba, did? You understand? It's something that they lived. It was a reality. It wasn't a slogan. So having said that,
how does this verse apply, for example, if you're involved in the government of a non-Muslim country? The word awliya. So if you're an American living in the United States, does this verse apply to your involvement in the government, in the military?
it can. It depends. Now that's the part that we're... So in other words, first of all, the altruism has to be there, right? So even if, like, for instance, many people, we'll do both contexts. One is when you're in a Muslim country or when you're not, okay? So in a Muslim country, and I'm just giving Pakistan as an example, right? Because they're one of the countries that obviously has great ties with the other country I'm referring to, both militarily and economically and so forth and so on, right? They may think to themselves, who knows what they're really thinking, but let's say the people in the government are thinking, well, we just don't have the power right now to shake the boat, right? You understand? And we don't want to do that. But the reality is that what are they commanded to do as Muslims? What's more pressing? To stand up. To stand up for what's right. You understand? To be vocal about it at the very least. We're not asking you to go to war with somebody, but at least to be vocal about it. Okay? To at least be vocal about it. Express your concern to some extent, if not actually have the courage to do something like, well, we won't make any more deals with you, we won't trade with you anymore, we don't need your military assistance, so forth and so on. That's really what should be happening. Okay? Someone should have enough bravery to say, well, enough is enough, we don't need things from you anymore, we don't want things from you anymore. Until we learn that you've changed your behavior, we won't deal with you. But of course, that's asking too much, right? That's the ideal. Okay. Why would they not do that? They have to answer for themselves, but usually it's because they have this fear that they're going to, lose out economically, militarily, something of that nature. But if we do that, it's not going to work out in our best interest. So Allah says, well, first of all, I didn't order you to do that. I ordered you to do what? يُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Prefer others, meaning the ghayr. Okay? Obviously, it's not about you, it's about who? Other people. Prefer others above yourselves, even if you can't take care of your own need. What is and the meaning is very clear. In other words, it may be that you will lose something. It may be that it doesn't work out in your best interest. But you should be the type of people that are there for others before they're there even for themselves. That's the deen. You understand what I'm saying? That's Islam. Right? If you're just always looking out for your self-interest at all times, then that's not really what Islam is all about. If you look at the entire seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, when was it ever that he looked out for his own comfort and interest at the expense of other people. You understand? It's the very opposite. He sacrificed all of his comfort and self-interest to the point that his family also suffered. Everyone around him. He told his family that the moment wahi was given to him, he came home and he told Khadija radiallahu anha and all of his daughters that from this moment on, the family of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will know no rest. He didn't just say him, he said all of us. We're in this boat together. Because Khadija radiallahu anha was the first supporter and believer in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said, from this moment on, okay, we will not know comfort, we will not know rest. It is our struggle, and this is even to the day that we die and even afterwards. This is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the direct descendants of him do not receive, as an example, zakah. Okay, so it's high demand, no? If you want to know what Allah wants from us, He wants self-sacrifice. He wants that we prefer others, but He wants very noble character, not to just sell ourselves out at every opportunity and expense at a time we can get, so we can just, we're okay. As long as we're okay, we don't have to worry about anybody else, okay? So what does Allah say? But there's a result of this too. In other words, this is not even the jaza, you understand, cause and effect. This is just a side note. It's almost like, what they call a jumlatul musta'nifa. It's another subject in itself. So Allah is just clarifying to make it clear to people who do that. This is not something I wanted from you. You did it on your own initiative, so now you deal with the consequences. If I told you to do it, in other words, if this is something that I taught you through the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam as part of the Sharia, then I would help you and I would assist you. But if it's something that you do on your own initiative, now you have to deal with the results. Now here comes the result, meaning the cause is this. You took them as allies for whatever purpose. What is the effect? You get what I'm saying? What is the jaza? The jaza is only one thing. Illa, literally illa, it's only one thing. Illa an tattaqu minhum tuqat. That now, from this point on, I'm not translating it word by word, that the only thing that you will get as a result of that is that now you will have to be in constant fear of them, meaning they will now, to the extent of how much you sell yourself out, is the extent that they will have power over you. And now you will be helpless to say or do anything. You get the point? To the extent that you sell yourselves out is to the extent that now they will control your affairs. That is the result.
But I think that's where they are right now, right? The Muslim nations, I think it's true. This is, I think, a true prophecy, and they're doubting to that point.
Yep. Simply put, you're right. That's where we are, right? And even on this level, so the answer would be that it's okay to be involved, like, okay, be specific, here in the United States of America. Can we be involved in the political process? All right, and I know some people in the community, even amongst imams, will argue for or against. I would say that Allahu A'lam whether we really can give a fatwa. But if you are involved in the process, even there, you have to be aware of this ayat. What do I mean by that? Is that, you should be resilient enough to stand by your morals and what you are, and not just for the sake of political expediency, sell out yourself to a particular party and their views. Does that make sense? If anything, just become independent. Or say that because I'm a Democrat, as an example, I will work with you on certain issues, and other issues, I have a difference of opinion. And there, no offense, I'm not going to cast my vote, or I'm not going to be at your march, or do you get what I'm trying to allude to? Right? That's not going to end, because that is a very dangerous thing, which, again, I want to avoid names and people, but there are big personalities in the Muslim Ummah of the United States of America now, who are, as an example, making a claim that we should, as another example, or let's just get it all out there. Okay, fine. They say that, for instance, we should ally ourselves with the LGBT community politically in a fight for their rights. Okay? To help us Muslims who are also a minority in America, who are discriminated against, and our cause. Well, number one, the only reason why they're saying that, as opposed to, okay, why not join, just as an example, I'm not saying I'm for or against it, the disclaimer, right? Just because I say it doesn't mean I'm for or against. But why not join the cause of the Black Lives Matter movement? Or any other, or why not go down right now to Texas and, make a big deal about what's going, because that's even more, to me, more than the LGBT community, that's more of a big deal, because what they're doing is they're setting a precedent that it's okay to keep families in cages. And once people get used to that, who knows where they're going to go. So the next minority they don't like, which we should be aware of that, which could be you, right? That they just say, hey, well, let's put them in cages, and people say, it's fine, who cares? This is like, it's border security there, it'll be national security over here. And I'm not trying to scare people. This had happened before in the United States of America, by the way, World War II. Right? This is not something, and this was done by a man who was, in their terms, in the alt-right and the Republicans and socialists. Roosevelt? That was the hero of Bernie Sanders? Okay. You see my point? Like, in other words, I don't even know how sincere some of these people are in that, because really what I see is dollar signs. The LGBT community is much more powerful and has much more money than the African Americans, than the Latinos. You understand what I'm trying to say? And other minorities. Therefore, their cause becomes the ones that is the most highlighted. Because they have a lot more money and a lot more power. You want more proof? The president can malign Muslim women of color, and people will actually come out and say, yeah, who cares? That's why I voted for him. Huh? Understand? People now could be openly racist. There'd be no reaction. Say one thing about a homosexual. Even if you're a Republican, what do you think is going to happen? The next day, you're packing your bags and you're gone. So I can malign women. I can malign blacks, I can malign Latinos, I can malign Muslims. Of course, that's open season, right? I can malign whoever I want. Say one thing about that community, watch what happens. You don't see the difference here? Of course there's a difference. It's in front of our faces. And so what I'm saying is that we have this fear. They're the ones who get things done. We see it politically. In other words, what I'm saying is politically we see that if anything is done against them, the action is swift and immediate, right or wrong. Swift and immediate. Whoever objects to them is shot down in less than a second. Done. You're done. Any other group? Not so much. They arrested the Somali policeman, right, for shooting someone. The guy who killed Eric Garner was free. You don't think those messages sink into the psychology of everyone? Yeah, you kill a black guy and you're white, you're okay. You're a black guy who accidentally kills someone and you're done. You're in a way for life. You understand? It's there in our faces, okay? So we may react just like this is on an individual level as compared to an international. So we may react that, okay, the power and the money is here. So let me go where I see the power and the money. Instead of being ethical people and saying, no, we're Muslim, okay? We have a standard, and our standard in our deen is this thing that you want us to fight for is haram. I'm not going to fight for the haram. You understand? I'm not going to align myself with people who promote a lifestyle that in our deen is not permitted. Okay? Now, people having those desires, and this is a different subject. Okay? A person can have the desire, frankly speaking, to have sex, to have relationships. Is zina halal because of that? So will you now start protesting and asking the Muslim world and everyone else to change their views about zina? Open up a little bit. Let's hold a rally. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Let's fight for the rights of people who want to commit zina. Make sure that the Sharia is done away with and that there's no more of these archaic laws and that people should be allowed to express themselves as they freely want in any circumstance. Would you do that? If I asked you guys to do that, would you be ready for that? Let's have a rally about the people who want to commit it. The idolaters of the world unite, and let's promote this lifestyle. Stop being so, okay, no one in their right mind. So it's the same thing. Having the desire or not, this is a different issue we can tackle another time. The point is, it's still haram. And we're not going to go out as Muslims and promote that or stand up for it or say that this is our cause as well. Okay, you understand? You get it? If you do that, what is the result? Same thing. And tattaquhum tuqah. Meaning now, you sold yourself out for their cause, they will now hold that over you now anytime, anywhere that they want to interfere with your affairs. They will interfere with your affairs. And to what extent? I'm telling you. This is something Imam Abdulaziz and I were talking about this. And Imam Rovell, it's something he mentioned, which is very important. He made a good point. Because when you say we're standing up for their rights, what are we talking about? Do they not already have the right to get married? So what rights now are we then talking about? You see, you sell yourself out, as the ayah says, the furthest extent that you sell yourselves out is the furthest extent that they have power over you. What are we trying to say? That it comes to the point that if, for instance, there's an openly, and I'm just being frank, forgive me for being frank, an openly gay imam, which by the way there is, okay, who actually has a same-sex partner, and he's an imam. If they come to your local masjid and apply for the position as an imam, and they feel that, for instance, the reason why they weren't hired is because of that, then they will go and they will file a complaint that the local masjid has discriminated against me and so forth. You get what I'm trying to say. So the more you sell yourselves out for this cause, the more they have power over you, and they can take it wherever they want. So now Muslims have to change all of their understandings even of deen and sharia and everything for the sake of this cause. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just saying, we may be a Democrat, because that's usually where that comes from, right? And we will make an effort to be there for certain causes. But we are Muslim, we have a limit, our deen is our deen, this is haram, no thank you.
But really, what about to stand up against violence against this community?
Even that, frankly speaking, even though the Sharia doesn't allow vigilante justice, but that's not, it shouldn't be something that we should concern ourselves with, to be very honest with you. That's something that the law of the land should take care of, not us. If they have laws to protect people, which they do, then that's sufficient. We don't need to, involve ourselves with that. Because the reality is, if someone does admit to the act, as an example, right, there are consequences for it in the Sharia. And it's not something that we just tolerate in the sense that, oh, it's okay, just go, keep on going. It's not a lifestyle choice or something that, for instance, that we want in society. And I think this is the bigger problem that I see in our communities, even amongst my own children, that I have to explain to them over and over and over again, because this is what's happening. They're making a concerted effort to normalize this lifestyle to the point that nobody's shocked, and not even shocked. It's not even about being shocked anymore. It's even this, you can't even have an objection to it. So even outside of religion, what if I just say as a person, I don't like it? You see what I'm saying? Just even if I just left religion out of it and me individually as a heterosexual male, I don't like it. Oh my God, I'll be crucified, But you're a Nazi, you can't say that. I said, why? I thought it's freedom of expression. You see, even according to their own liberal standards, because freedom of expression is not contained to things that you like. Why do you think, I remember in my hometown, the Ku Klux Klan tried to have a rally and parade down Westchester, and it didn't last that long. People almost beat them up. But they had police protecting them. Why were the police protecting them? It's a constitutional right for me to say whatever I want, even if it's hateful. Even if I'm saying I hate minorities, or I hate blacks, I hate women. It doesn't matter. I hate gays. I actually have constitutionally the right to say that. You see what I'm trying to say? And in this secular liberal society, that should be the right that's afforded to everyone. That you don't have to like it, but people can express their opinions no matter how ugly it is, according to their own standards. You know what I'm trying to say? Obviously in Islam too, we have limits on that as well. You can't just always express everything you want to in front of people and insult people and hurt people or the prophets and all these. You understand? But according to their own standards, that's a right I have. I don't have to say things that people like. I can say whatever I want, no matter how ugly it is. You see what I'm saying?
Well, this seems to be such a slippery slope. Because, for example, there's this issue, right? We're actively paying taxes to a government that openly hurts Muslims on a constant basis. So this is, you can keep going down this rabbit hole, and eventually the conclusion is get out of this country.
Well, you can't, yeah. I mean,
because you're entrenched in it. And that was my point about it, getting involved in the government and getting involved in the military. You can't separate the two.
Yeah.
It's just one layer after the other. Their whole concept is incongruous to what we believe and what we practice. You can't just think, you can make one small fine point here and one point here, but the fact of the matter is their paradigm is completely antithesis of what ours is. So, I mean, how are you going to...
You're correct. So that's why in this case we do what's called a khaf al-dararain. This is a kind of like an usul al-fiqh premise here. And what does it mean? The lesser of two evils. In certain situations that you find yourself in, if you have no alternative, then you must do the lesser of two evils. So we're obviously discussing finer details, but even the point I just made was kind of what I'm alluding to is that in our situation, we use the rules that they already have intact to our own advantage. In other words, this, freedom of expression. You understand? We tell them, we put the onus of burden on them, because you're right, the whole paradigm, it doesn't allow us at all to even exist, really. Okay? Except when we use, so then let's use their paradigm while it still exists. Do you understand what I'm saying? In other words, you have freedom of expression, is that there? Okay, so use it against them. See, the onus of burden is on you. I don't have to agree with this lifestyle. And even according to your own constitution and the rights you afford me as an individual, okay, I am allowed to express my dislike of that as well. You understand? Legally and in every way, you can have your campaign against me and character assassination and all that good stuff. But legally, Constitution protects us. You use their paradigm. That's what I was trying to do. When and where you can. Do you have the freedom of religion? And thank Allah, that's the only thing left that they cannot control, meaning freedom of religion allows a church or a synagogue or a masjid to discriminate against them on a private level. You understand? You're a private institution, you're a religious institutions. I can say, I don't want to hire a person who has that life or made that lifestyle choice. I don't want to invite a speaker or an imam who promotes that, or, you can do that as it's still based on their own paradigm of what? Freedom of religion. So we do happen to be, it's contextual, you understand? We happen to be in a situation where, yes, it's true that overall their paradigm is definitely different. However, within it, we, in our particular situation, in our particular context, still have the freedom to do these things and work in these institutions using their own paradigm. Do you understand? Am I making sense? Okay, you use it against them. I have freedom of expression. I have freedom of religion. I am under no obligation legally to abide by these things, because actually legally you have given me the right. You see what I'm saying? You've given me the right. I can express my dislike of it, and you've given me the right religiously too to say this is not my religion. I will not practice it. That's the only way, actually. Well, I shouldn't say it's the only way. I mean, it's something we actually have to sit down and think about and find out, with a lot of dedication and work with other scholars and other members of the community about exactly how do we work our way around these things. But that's just an example of how it can be done. That you use their own paradigm. This is your paradigm, not mine. You understand? Freedom of expression and freedom of religion is guaranteed. So I'm using this. Okay, that's also why, that's why to me I have another gripe. Okay, we'll get on from the politics after this. But I have another gripe with how a majority of the Muslim community does seem to tend to gravitate more towards the liberal side, simply because they see on the Republican side there tends to be a lot more discrimination, right? But the fact is, the Republican side, they're catching wind of this and they're using it. And they're hiring people, for instance, in their cabinet, especially Trump, that the whole premise of it is that they will allow Christians to be more vocal about the things they believe in, like abortion and homosexuality too, to be honest with you. Okay? And that they're not always under the pressure of the liberal side. So my idea, actually, which a lot of people are not going to like, you need to start rubbing elbows more with the Republican Party. I know Muslims did it in the 80s. And then after the 90s, obviously, and furthermore after 9/11, people got a lot disenchanted with the Republican Party because of obvious reasons, right? Obvious reasons. However, the point is, why did the most Muslims align themselves in the 80s with the Republican Party? Because even if they're just lip service, they tend to have, in terms of social issues and morality, they are more similar to us. If you go to the liberal side, that's what it is. You're going to fly the rainbow flag and, open up the bottle of wine and, have your bar mitzvah too and celebrate everyone else's thing, and just everyone come together in this whole perennial kind of like party, right? Everyone just come, I'm okay, you're okay, everyone's okay, let's have a hippie, utopian, Woodstock type of, You're like, seriously, that's where you're going there. But that's why Muslims in the 80s aligned themselves with Republicans, because most Muslims, no matter how far they are, they still have some concept of, social, and you know what I'm trying to say. They have a morality that they kind of stick to some degree or the other. You can have a Muslim that doesn't even pray 5 times a day, but they're not going to commit zina. Am I right or wrong? Okay, but you see what I'm saying?
No, I understand 100% what you're saying. But these are like, a personal sin, right? Obviously, homosexuality, abortion, these kind of things. When's the last time you heard a homosexual say, "Let's go kill Muslims"? You're going to end up losing either way. That's kind
usually
of my point.
Well, actually, no, there is that guy. What's his name?
Yeah, 1 in a million, not 50 out of 100. So my point is, it's you're going to lose either way in this game. I honestly believe that.
I would say you may be right if you're looking at it from one angle only. And you know what that is?
Like, my point is, should you, as a Muslim who's practicing in the United States, should you care really that much about a personal sin of your neighbor?
No.
What he does in the confines of his house, as opposed to someone who's coming out blatantly with blood dripping out of their mouth, saying, "Kill this, put this person in a thing," let's...
Yeah, I would agree with you, only though that there's a problem here. It's not that we're worried about the personal sin of someone. It's the issue that the LGBT community has become now a political entity that is forcing its views on other people. That's the issue. I would have no problem if it was just that. You do what you do, I do what I do. In fact, that's the kind of liberalism I was brought up on, is that you can have a friend, I can have a friend who's a neo-Nazi even. You understand what I'm saying? The liberalism I was taught was not to be intolerant of their view. I don't like it, I don't agree with you, but we can hang out. You see? Now the liberalism that we're seeing, now this is the reaction. That's why the Republican Party is reacting. That's why even I'm reacting. It's a different monster here. They're not saying that we can differ and live together. They're saying, no, everyone must accept this lifestyle choice. Our education systems now have to have mandatory teaching of this, of even gender roles. Now every movie, every show, all entertainment, even politics. No, that's why I made the example. A politician can say whatever they want about everyone else. If they say one thing about a homosexual, what do you think is going to happen to them? This is beyond that. It's beyond now saying that we don't agree, but we can live with each other. This is now you're forcing that lifestyle on me. And that's where I am going to take my right and say no. You can't force that on me and my family. If you want to do that, that's fine. What you said, yeah. If you want to go do and have your party, do it on your own time. I won't interfere with it, okay? I'm not going to do anything about that, legally or anything else. I'm just going to, say, lakum dinukum waliya din. To your way and to me mine. I'll mind my own business. But when you force that on me, to the point now where this has to be now put in, and it is, I'm not making that up, this is what's happening. You're shoving this into everything, even to the point you can't watch a show, not even children's shows, without it being, it's like, I just explained that to my son, because of what I'm talking about. I grew up, even if it's not, 80s and 90s I grew up, right? There's forgive me for mentioning pop culture, Rock Hudson as an example, right? He was that, he died of AIDS, right? Nobody knew that while he was making movies, right? He was just this handsome guy who always had women in his movies and love stories and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out later on he dies of AIDS, and it comes out, yes, he was like that. What I'm saying is, in those times, it was much more hidden, right? It wasn't in your face. Now it's beyond even just the point of acceptance. It's the point of we are being forced now okay, to change our own views. This is what they're doing to the Christian church. The Bible is actually more explicit about what happened to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Bible says the same thing in the Quran, and ta'amul al-khaba'ith. They literally says, if you open up the Bible, they did literally like filthy, abnormal things. This is what they called homosexuality in the Bible, filthy and abnormal. The Torah itself, the Old Testament says you should kill the person who commits sodomy. That's what it says. A man to a man, it says you should kill them. That's Jewish law. That's Judaic, Mosaic law. It's there in their own books. But what are they doing to those religious communities? So now you have pastors coming out and saying what? No, that's not how we understand the New Testament Bible. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. We support their choice to get married and do what. You see what I'm saying? They are, in other words, effectively making these people change their own religion, their own morality. They have forced them, instead of just saying like this, we disagree, we'll be civil with each other with our disagreements. Like you said, if that was the case, if it was only that, I would have no issue whatsoever. Okay, if it's just you do your thing, we do ours, we disagree, alhamdulillah. But now you're forcing us, and that's what I'm seeing is happening in the Muslim community now with certain of our own people, that they want to do the same thing with the Muslims because we're the last man standing. We're still the only one who will say it's haram. You see, that's all we're saying. We're not saying anything. This is what I'm point. All I'm saying is it's haram. And I don't have to go to your parade. Okay? Like, no thank you. Like, do what you got to do, but I don't have to be there. You see what I'm saying? It's haram. This is my stance. This is what I believe. Under the freedom of expression and religion, leave me alone. But it's not enough for them. They have to come there too and say, no, what do you mean it's haram? Literally, I have, and maybe you run into yourself, a friend of mine who a colleague told him that, no, you see, that's the problem. You should change the Quran. A homosexual man told him that. Like, no, that's the problem. You should change the Quran. If the Quran says it's haram, change it. As if the Quran is mine to change. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, even if I wanted to change it, as the Prophet himself said, how can I change the wahi that comes to me min tilqa'i nafsi, meaning just because I want to or I like something, now I'm going to change God's revelation? That's ridiculous. I'm just charged to follow what God tells me. Right? You see what I'm trying to say? So, but they have taken it to that extent. That this is what I mean, that it's a very important issue for us to kind of stick to our guns on this, because why? They're pressuring the other communities, the Jews and the Christians. Even there you see politics though. I'm going to be honest with you. Why? After the shooting in Squirrel Hill, right? And I met that rabbi, by the way. But anyhow, okay. So after that happened, there was an Orthodox Jew who actually made a video on YouTube. But do you know what he said? I mean, that's like I was like my jaws dropping when I heard him, because he basically just said it's their fault. It was a punishment from God because they were having a same-sex couple was having a bar mitzvah celebration in the he said that's sacrilegious. He went through the whole thing that how God punished the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's sacrilegious. You do this on the Sabbath in the synagogue. God sent someone to you to do that. That's what literally. This is literally what I'm not. This is what what amazed me with his statement though was not even what he said. It's the fact that if that was a pastor or a Muslim imam, oh man, whoo, that's it. He'd be done. Like, whoa, get rid of him. Our cousins still hold a lot of sway in this country, mashallah. They can pretty much do whatever they want and no one's going to say a thing. I mean, the fact that he's even still around, that he even has a congregation, that no one has just excommunicated him, and he just came out, and that's literally what he said. It's their fault. They had a same-sex couple doing bar mitzvah in the Sabbath, during the Sabbath, in the synagogue. He said God sent them punishment. That's what he said. And I was like, man, if a pastor said that or an imam said that, it's the first, it's like they'd be done completely. And this guy, our cousins, mashallah, they're smart, you see. If anything, and this too, I will say with a grain of salt, because they also use methodologies that are a little bit more like unethical. But one thing they're good at is they know how to survive as a minority in places where they're not wanted. They know to this extent that they can say unpopular things. They can pretty much just say whatever they want, and nobody's gonna do anything. You see what I'm trying? Where have we gone wrong? That's another question for us. So actually, okay, we're getting way off course. So Just let me allude to a fact of how one thing they did do that the Quran itself speaks about. When Yusuf alayhi salam was in Egypt, okay, and the Fir'aun of that time, because that's just, Fir'aun is just a title. It's like saying the president or the prime minister or whatever, okay? And he offered him his position because of his interpretation of the dream, and understanding how to, to know about, he knew about how to deal with the situation. So one thing that he said to him is what? Ij'alni ala khaza'in al-ard, which is literally like saying, give me control of your resources. Give me control of your economy. You see what I'm saying? Give me control of your resources. Give me control of your economy. Now, of course, he wasn't being exploitative. He was not trying to exploit people. He was actually trying to genuinely help them. But there is an ingenious, because our cousins do that to this day. If you control the economy, if you control the money, if people need you for that, an example even from what we were talking about earlier, why we sell ourselves out to certain countries, it's all economic. You control the money, you control everybody. You understand what I'm saying? He said, give me the control of your resources and your economy. I'll help you. But that is one way also, and if you look at this whole story, Yusuf alayhi salam, even if people didn't want to accept his message of La ilaha illallah and Tawheed, were they going to do anything to him? Were they going to throw him out, kick him out? No, why? Because, well, we need him. Without Yusuf alayhi salam, our country is going to go down the drain. You see that's the big question we have to ask ourselves in the community too. Yeah, we have high levels of education and there's a lot of professionals in our communities, but let's be frank, they're only in certain types of fields, right? And tomorrow, if they decided we don't need Muslims, can we really say to them that, no, you really need us? Do you understand what I'm saying? Tomorrow they said, yeah, we're getting sick of the Muslims, let's get rid of them. Do we really have something there that we can say, well, if you get rid of us, you see, that's where our cousins are smart. If you get rid of us, everything's falling down. You try to come after us, and your whole country is going to fall apart. Your economy, your entertainment, you name it, everything is literally going to. So I think Muslims have to also think about that too. It's more than just the politics, it's also this. You have to put yourself, and for our view, it shouldn't be exploitative, it actually should be something of, again, benefiting the people around us. Anfa'u nas, or the best of people, khairun nas, man anfa'u nas, as the Prophet said, is the best of people are those who give the people the most benefit. Alright, so we need to put ourselves also as a strategy outside of the politics, put yourselves in positions where basically the society around you feels that they need you. You understand my point? They need you. Like without you, they wouldn't be able to function properly. You see what I'm saying? Not just like, they're just guests in our country living off of our goodwill. Do you see that? There's a big difference, right? They're just guests in our country feeding off of all our efforts and our goodwill. You're in a very precarious situation because anytime they want, you say, well, we don't want you anymore. What do you do to a guest if you don't want them anymore, if they're annoying you? Yeah, bye-bye. We fed you, we let you stay, but we're sick of you now. But if there's someone you need, if there's someone that they're bringing something to the table that they value and recognize, then they're not going to say bye-bye, they're going to say, we want you. We need you. So that's the other strategy. Right? One, politically, is simply put, you have to work within their paradigm. And alhamdulillah, we should be thankful to Allah that at least we live in a country where that paradigm still works in our favor too. You understand? With the freedom of religion and so forth and so on. Don't wait until the time that Allah, because you see, don't ever think that things cannot happen. Don't wait for the time for those things to be gone. Right? Take advantage of it while you have it, and do what? وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ. Fear Allah, at the end of the day, who will help you? Who will assist you? Who will give you what you need and protect you? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't be too afraid of the results. Just do what you got to do. And the second thing too is, like I said, we should kind of put ourselves in a position where, people in this society really feel that we are valuable contributions and that they need us. Because that's why a rabbi can come out and say things that shocking. Because nobody looks at the Jews in America, even if they don't like them. You think that people like Jews, honestly? Let's just be frank, They may not even like them, but they know that this is like the corner. These guys, whether we like it or not, their achievements in the dunya, even from their IQ tests, they say it's Caucasians, then it's the Jews, and then it's the Japanese, right? Like the Jews are just, just geniuses, and they always do well. And I grew up with some, I see it. I can tell you the truth. Jewish families, like their sons and daughters can literally be strung out on like heroin or some crazy drug in high school. They'll take them to a camp and they'll do everything. The whole family will get together. They'll pay for a camp and counseling until they get off from heroin and get straight A's and then go to, like literally, I've seen this in my own eyes, and go to like, the most prestigious college possible, and just, that's how Jewish families are with each other. They will make sure that their children and and the people that around them, that they will help them to the extent that no matter how down they are, they'll take them and they'll push them until they overachieve. We do it too, but the problem is strategy. We're very narrow-minded. You're either doctor, engineer, right? This is like it. These are two career choices only. Doctor, engineer. Okay, fine. Broaden your horizons a little bit. Start to think about those things that maybe, inshallah, that if you're in certain positions and in certain places, you will have real power and real contributions to society. Not that doctors don't contribute to society, but let's just look at it. Do you think they would have a problem with firing a doctor and getting rid of him and replacing him? You know what I'm saying? They'll find other doctors from the Hindus or whoever else, you understand? So that's what I'm saying. Strategize. We do good too with raising our children for the most part, but strategize. Get them to do like other things. Put them in places where we have to think about the long haul. Am I right or am I wrong? We need to start thinking about what? The long haul. Umar radiallahu anhu, during his khilafah, there was some land that was part of waqf, it's part of the, if you will, the treasury of the government. And some of the companions came to him, this is actually in Sahih al-Bukhari, and said that, well, we have all this land that's not being used, why don't we give it to some of the Ansar and other people that, and he said, well, if it wasn't for the last Muslim to be alive on earth, I would give this land away. In other words, he's strategizing for who? The future. We're going to need this in the long haul. That's why I don't like the Republican Party. You're only thinking about yourself. So if the environment falls and everything blows up and your kids are like in a world that's desolated, who cares? As long as I died rich, it's all right. You understand? As long as I made it, I'm happy, I'm retired, I can leave and say bye-bye. I don't care what happens to you guys. Fend for yourselves. We shouldn't be like that. We should literally think, as the Prophet ﷺ said, it's a beautiful hadith if you think about it. If you are planting a tree and you hear that Dajjal has come, continue to plant the tree. Understand? If you're planting a tree and you hear that Dajjal has come, continue to plant the tree, because there will still be people living after Dajjal. This is, again, it's not slogans, this is how Muslims should think. Just as we should be concerned with other believers, we should also be people who think about the long haul. Not just right now, we're under so much pressure that we're just trying to survive. Why don't we start doing things that we will think that even 100 years from now, how will Muslims in North America be living?
So are temporary alliances okay just to climb the ladder and get to a point where you have some clarity?
Of course, sometimes you have to. This is a khaf al-dararain, right? The lesser of two evils. However, all I'm saying is that in that, never sell out your morality and what you know to be right. Okay? Be frank and be open about it. Don't hide from it. And you see, that's the only thing I'm saying with that. But no doubt, temporary, because it's not like on a personal level, and I'm sure a lot of you agree with this, it's not like I'm quite fond of either the Republican or the Democratic Party. They both have their issues, no doubt. But you have to choose at that time, what? The lesser of two evils. Whichever one you feel is the best route to go for us as a community. Okay, and also on top of that, like I said, please do not sell out your morality for the sake of that political expediency. That's definitely not allowed. That's what Allah is saying here. This is not what Allah wants from us, that we sell out for the political expediency, sell ourselves out. Don't do that. I mean, just if you have to, at the very least, use their paradigm. Say this is freedom of expression, freedom of religion. I don't have to agree with you on this issue. Okay, with anything else that we can work together. And some of them, honestly, there are some that are like hot-headed and they want to push everyone into a certain, everyone has to have this viewpoint, agree with us. As the one person told my friend, their colleague told them, change the Quran. Right? There also are other people, including from that community, who will say, okay, we respect the fact that that's your religion, this is what you believe, and we will respect that. See, that's why this is this is a generational thing. I don't understand, like I said, the hippies and the people I grew up, the liberals, that's their liberalism. That they, even if they don't agree with you, say, well, we respect the fact that you don't agree with us, and we just, let's get along. This is a different thing. These are like, almost like neo-Nazis on the liberal side, like thought police, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you cannot say that. Like, whoa. You know, like, what do you mean I can't say that? Technically, according to the Constitution, yeah, I can. I can be as rude and crude and as loudmouth as I really want to. I'm not going to do that. That too, because of what? Not because of you, because of taqwa. You see what I'm trying to say? But that your paradigm gives me that right. I'm allowed to be as rude as I want. Who told you that you have to come and say, no, you can't say that? I mean, why? You understand? So use their own paradigm. Yes, I can say that, actually.
Does this ayat also apply to interpersonal relationships just on an individual level? Meaning, are we only supposed to have superficial friendships with can you apply that?
The long story short, it doesn't apply the same way unless that relationship affects your deen. That's the whole point with everything. So this is the bottom line. From political levels at international or within a community like here in the United States of America and in different places, in different cities, or within a person's own life at an individual level, the golden rule is always this. Relationships with them are fine as long as it does not what? As long as it does not affect your deen. Meaning if I have a really close friend who's not Muslim who eventually gets me in the bar too, then you need to stop hanging out, okay? That's the time you say, okay, like, you know, I may like them, but this is not good friendship to have. And then they hold that over you. You see, because that's what happens. Misery loves company. You see? Oh man, you're not going to come out tonight again? No, I don't feel right. It's against my religion. So I don't care about that. Come on, man. Don't worry, Allah will forgive you. You know how many times I've had colleagues tell me that? Do what you got to do, Allah will forgive you. It's like, subhanAllah, shaitan speaking right in the tongue. Like, you know, like, come on, man, do this, do that, Allah will forgive you. I say, oh, okay, inshallah. Bye-bye. That's when you have to say what? Okay, bye. I'm occupying myself with something. So that's the golden rule. It's okay as long as that friendship does not compromise your deen. And sometimes even those relationships are a powerful way of giving dawah too. Understand? Those relationships also too can be a powerful way of giving dawah. Now you guys think you got it hard. Imagine me and my family. These aren't friends, these are family members. This is family. I cannot cut myself off from them no matter what. You see what I'm saying? And I have to go see them like I just did. And there are people in my family who have that lifestyle. You see what I'm saying? And who do whatever they do and have these views. They're my family. There's nothing I can do about that. I have to be open with them. They know what I am. They know I'm Muslim and I'm a practicing Muslim. They know what I'm an imam and I've studied and all this stuff. So, but it's family. What can I do there, right? I can't cut myself from offering them no matter what. And that's not just me. That's Islam says that. I cannot cut my ties off with them no matter what they are or what they're doing. See what I'm saying? So that's an even more difficult thing.
One of the difficulties in this situation, what I would say is, the current situation has created strange bedfellows because the people that are most accepting or say that LGBT people have a role in our society are also the ones that recognize that we have a role in our society. Whereas the other one, which you can see from the last 2 weeks, there's people that really don't recognize that we belong and have a role in the society. So there's an irony to it, but there's also logic to why we might gravitate towards that side and those alliances.
Sure, because I understand. And I understand that, and I'm just saying again, khaf al-dararain, doing the lesser of the two evils doesn't mean we should again use their own paradigm.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, in other words, I don't believe that we're not going to take any action against you because you do something haram. In the same way, we would respect that you don't come after us because we have our own morality.
So,
see what I'm saying?
As a minority, is a live and let live philosophy is okay?
At this point in time, yeah,
Yeah.
because this is where we are. This is akhaf al-dararain. In other words, this is the lesser of two evils. Okay? But we retain, as I said, within their own paradigm, we just ask them, we want to retain the freedom of expression and the freedom of religion. We would like to be guaranteed this, just as you want to be guaranteed that you can do that, whatever, same-sex couple marriage, all that. That's fine. You're in a secular country. This is the situation. Do what you got to do. But we also ask you to allow us to retain what? Those two things: freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and we kind of respect each other that way. Does that make sense? Okay, that's why. Because the only reason why I'm being adamant about this, because I see with my own two eyes that their pressure now has become such that there are Muslim community, big leaders in the Muslim community, that are very popular, that are now telling us to change our deen because of aligning with them, to change our morality and our viewpoints. Because this is another very sticky point, is that this can even affect our aqidah and our iman. You see, what is haram, always. Even if I'm doing it. So I can be a sharabi, right? I can be an alcoholic, I can be drunk falling out of the bar. As long as I stop that sharabi and say, hey, is drinking haram? As long as they say, yeah, drunk it. I think sometimes we've seen some Arab brothers like, yeah, Arabs tend to be more educated in certain of these issues. They're like, yeah, haram. I know, it's haram. I know I'm bad, I'm messed up. It's haram. Allah's Ghafur Rahim. That's it, right? This is, may Allah forgive me. Right? But the point is here, the acknowledgement that it is haram is the important point. He's doing the sin, knee deep into the sin, but they know that it's haram. Okay, that means that they've retained their iman. You understand? But the moment a Muslim says, and this is what I'm hearing and seeing, like no, it wasn't the fact that they were homosexuals, meaning the people of Lut alayhi salam. It's that they were raping, and that's not actually true. But anyhow, right? It's the fact that they were doing it outside of love, or they were raping people, or what? No, I mean the Quran is very good. أَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ مِن دُونَ النِّسَاءِ شَهْوَةً. I mean, it's a very clear ayat. Are you going to men instead of women in your lust? It's the act itself that the Quran is saying that no, this is not, it's haram, it's not right. Forget about not being right. Literally the language of the Quran and the Bible, it's khaba'ith. You know what khaba'ith is? Khabith. Like it's abnormal. It's not right. You shouldn't be doing it. Even I heard a non-Muslim, again, he made a good point about the word unnatural. Right? Even outside of religion. When you say something's unnatural, what are we implying? What is nature's purpose behind sexuality? Survival, right? And survival by the means of, right, reproduction. So yes, it is unnatural in the terms of what? Even without religion, it's not reproduction. You can't, I don't care how many times you do it, no baby's going to come out of it. Okay? So it's unnatural in that respect. It really is. Okay? You want to do it, again, we understand the context of it. You have the freedom to do it. They gave it to you. Okay, we're not going to argue about that. But don't argue with us when we say this is what the Quran says, because this is the point. They are going to get us to the point where we're going to say what? Oh, it's fine. You see,
I think that's your point.
That's my point more than anything.
How many times have we seen people compromise, right?
Right.
Being a Muslim in America is all about compromise. How many times have we heard our friends say, as long as my kid doesn't do that,
Yeah.
They can do this, but they're both wrong.
Right.
It's a spectrum.
Right.
As long as they don't do that, they can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. God forbid they should do that.
Right.
And maybe that, the normalization
That's what I'm
of
saying.
this is very dangerous.
And that's the point I'm saying.
And it will become normal to our
Right.
kids. It already is.
Right. It already is. And I'm dealing with this in my own. I have to repeat these things to my own children again and again because they're so bombarded with this stuff that again and again I have to make it clear.
They're winning on that front.
They are winning. And that's the point I'm making. That's what I want to say about all of this is that you can have your political alliances, but stick to your morality. Don't sell that out because I'm seeing it, like you said, with my own eyes. We're having a generation. The next generation is going to come and say, "No, it's all right. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it." I heard it with my own 2 ears. I heard a young Muslim say that to me. To the point that says not even in the Quran. I said, "Whoa, I don't know what." I didn't say that to them in front of them. You have to be smart about how you talk to people. But I don't know what Quran you're reading. But I don't know how you came to that conclusion that the Quran does not disparage homosexuality. I mean, the ta'mul al-khaba'ith, like literally saying that you're doing something khabith, that's not small words. That's very strong. And even in biblical tradition, why would God punish a whole civilization, take a whole city and destroy it? Because it's something good? Because, there's no problem there? It's all right if you do it? No. I mean, obviously there is an issue. Obviously God himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, has an issue with it. It's obviously not a small thing, just because we get used to it. And that's really what I'm saying. It's not even just getting used to it, we're being pressured. See, there's a hadith that's, although the chain is considered to be weak, but it's very true in meaning, where Ali radhiyallahu anhu said that the Prophet ﷺ told him that the time will come when the evil will be enjoined and the good will be forbidden. You understand? That in the last days, this is what will happen. In other words, exactly what I'm seeing with my own. The good will be disparaged to the point that people will make the good bad. You see? Like, oh, look at that. Nazis. Like, literally, if I'm a heterosexual male and I just want to have children and have a family and I don't like that, you're a Nazi. Whoa. Now I'm the bad one. Right? And the evil will be what? It's so funny that in the English language, what does the word gay actually mean? Happy. Like, they're the good, like even now, look at what we said, they're the ones who are tolerant, they're the ones who are happy, they're the ones who are like, so good to us. And it's like, it's being flipped upside down to the point where things that are not pleasing to Allah are made to be what? They're the good things. Things that are pleasing to Allah, that's bad. You see, that's what we're getting at. And as Muslims, we have to remember, we have to protect our own spirituality. Because halal and haram, that's why I made that point. Even if you're doing the haram, the acknowledgement of it as being haram is saving your spiritual state, which is iman. You're acknowledging that this is something Allah has forbidden. I'm doing it, may Allah forgive me, right? For whatever reason, whatever weaknesses I have, whatever problems and issues I have, I'm in it, but I know it's wrong. The problem is when we get to the point where we do what? No, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm fine, they're fine. Why are you even saying it's haram? That's all nonsense. The Quran doesn't even say. Then you're even denying like the clear-cut verses of the Quran. Where does it go after that? You see, once you've done that, it's not just the act itself. You have now opened the door where you can interpret the deen anything you want, and then who knows? You might have a trinity after that. You know what I mean? It goes even to that. You might do whatever you want after that. Well, I'm a prophet. That's what and this is that, and and just interpret the Quran in any other way you want. And mashallah, I've actually heard this. You know what? You want to hear Abu, and maybe a few more questions if you have them. We'll end it with. Didn't even go to the ayat, but that's okay. There's a person, I saw this with my own eyes on Egyptian television, right? They have an Egyptian news channel where they have these kind of debates. You know what this guy was saying? You're going to love this. This is where we're getting, right? So, okay, the controversial. It's only controversial because I know in our context, in our society, right? The issue of polygyny, right? But the funny thing is, he wasn't even talking about polygyny. You're going to love it. He said that the ayah, which allows it, right? Marry whomever you like of women 2, 3, 4, right? He said in Arabic, the actual word, which is right, which is funny, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, Urdu speaking, wala mashallah, have you said the word nikah in front of an Arab and got a strange reaction? You know why? Because nakaha yankuhu in Arabic actually means the act itself. It means having relationships. Okay, so when you say that, tomorrow we're doing my daughter's having nikah, and it's whoa. What kind of stuff? They'll look at it. What's wrong with you people, right? Like, why are you saying that? Because that's what the word means in Arabic. But the Quran uses it also to mean marriage. But the ayah that talks about polygyny, the word using is fankihu. It's from nikah, and it's a command, meaning it's like literally saying do this. So it's literally like saying, do what? To whomever you like of women. So what is he trying to say? Having girlfriends and having relationships out of marriage, all halal. Right here. He was literally doing that. He says, it's all good. It's right here. It's in the Quran. The Quran says, fankihu. Right? Whatever you like of women, do it. The Quran says it, so you can have girlfriends, you can have relationships outside. We're literally getting to that point. I'm watching this, and this is almost amusing and so pathetic, right? The guy is literally trying to use the Quran to prove that what? You can have extramarital relationships, adulterous relationships, whatever you want. The Quran itself says it. You know, I'm like, wow, okay, here we go. This is, I mean, if anything, this is almost amusing. Like I said, it's wow. That's the point we're getting, where someone on a news channel in Egypt can come out and say the Quran itself says that do what you like. It even commands it. That's the fun, because in the Arabic, like I said, it's a verbal command. It's like, you know, go do it. You see what I'm saying? It is, here's where you are. So, yeah, it's challenging times, and we have to be smart. I'm not saying that we have to be so abrasive and in people's faces that we become outcasted, but we have to be, you know, play the game well. And that's why I suggested use their own paradigm. And even when you talk about these issues, don't use religion so much as, that's why I like to teach people these things like logic and everything else. You know, talk to them on another level. Don't just use, well, the Quran says it's haram and that's it. Because they don't care about that. That's what they'll tell you. We just need to change the Quran or change your understanding of the Quran. See what I'm saying? But make sure you use that paradigm, meaning freedom of expression, freedom of religion. I respect our differences, you respect our differences, and, you know, we'll be able to live together amiably. So just like I can't force a neo-Nazi to love people of color, right? So, you know, we all have to respect these things in our society, as I say. Respect us too. Hope that makes sense. Any questions before we get the ayah that you asked me to talk about? I was actually going to talk about, but long story short there, right? مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ. Whatever hardships that we do, to sum this up, if we go through hardships, they are directly related to our actions, no doubt. To the extent that the Prophet ﷺ said, even hatta shawka, even a thorn, just a thorn that pricks us, all of that is a result of something that we did. It's kafara, it's an expiation. And there's many ayat that لِنُذِيقَهُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي عَمِلُوا. So Allah says that all the tribulations that go on in the heaven, you know, in the heaven and the earth, بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِي النَّاسِ. So this is something that people earn with their own two hands. Meaning every tribulation that occurs on earth, every problem, it is a result of your own actions. And also what Allah says about that, to make you taste some of what you have done. So some shuyukh said, see, this is where some people who are spiritually elevated will actually recognize the sin itself that they committed that had certain things, certain results. So for instance, like if they came home and they saw that their children were obstinate and disobedient, they recognized immediately it was because of something, I was being obstinate and disobedient to my Creator. They were actually that in tune. So now Allah put that into my children to make me feel what it's like that I'm the parent, I raised them, I take care of them, and I know better. But they refuse to listen to me. How does that feel? So, think about your Creator, right? Who created you and provides everything you have, life itself, and yet you refuse to do what? So Allah does this in order for us. So some shuyukh say there's nothing that happens to us except Allah wants us to recognize. Sometimes it's between Him and between you and Allah. Sometimes it's because of what you do to other people. So as an example, I am oppressive to certain people, so Allah Ta'ala will make other people oppressive to me with the hope that we'll recognize what we're doing to other people. You know how you tell your kids, you see, like you ever see your kid do something to someone and say, well, I hope you know that that's how other people feel. You understand? As you know, to make them understand that when you do that to other people, this is how they feel. So if they're good, you know, if you don't like it, then don't do it to whom? To others. You don't feel good about it, you shouldn't do it to them too. In fact, that's the first step of morality, even outside of religion. When they talk about why would you not, like a feral child, if you take him out of the jungle and you bring him around other people, what's to stop him from stealing somebody else's things? He's never been raised in society or taught right or wrong. Why wouldn't he take somebody else's toy? You understand? He doesn't have the concept that that's somebody's property. He has to learn first that if I have a toy and someone takes it from me, I feel bad. So therefore, you see how this is why we use our intellect. Therefore, if I do the same thing to someone else, what is the result? They will feel bad. So I shouldn't make other people feel bad. That's the morality. You have to be taught it. Without that, right? So that's exactly what Allah is doing. He's waking us up. Like, look, I made you feel this way, and so you don't do this to other people. I gave you this pain so that you recognize other people don't want this pain either. You see what I'm trying to say? So everything. The beautiful thing is though, as Allah says, وَيَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ. Most of the things we do, Allah overlooks it. If Allah Ta'ala was going to like literally send a punishment for every single problem that we have, everything that we do, then we'd all be destroyed, right? So if Allah does it, it's there because He actually is trying to wake us up, and there is something that He wants us to learn from it. Okay, I'm making you go through these things to learn. I want you to see your mistakes, I want you to see what you're doing, and I want you to make a change.
So it's not always a repercussion of your sins, right? It's not always true. I said, like you said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to learn something.
Okay, if I say this, we have to be responsible. Just like the Prophet said, that إِلَّمْ تُذْنِبُوا, that if you never were to sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala لَذَهَبَ بِكُمْ, He would destroy you and bring another creation who would sin so that He could forgive them. That's one hadith, but there's even a deeper level to that. Like some shuyukh say, sometimes sin, Allah allows it. There's actually a hadith that says this, that sometimes a person is allowed to sin to teach them humility. So when we look down on other people, that's why even with all of this, when we say this is haram, like I try to be very careful. Yes, the action is deplored by Allah, but we should be very careful by saying things like, I would never do something like this. People are disgusting. You know why? Because Allah may actually then try you with that same sin just to teach you humility, like you're no better than anyone else. If I want to, you'll do the same thing. If I want you to, you'll be doing the exact same things they do. So don't look down on the people, look down on the act. The act is bad, it's, we want to stay away from it for our own sake. But sometimes Allah allows sin just to even teach people humility. And the reason why I'm saying that, there's a deeper level which we have to look at very responsibly, because this is not a license to go do things you're not supposed to do. Iblis was obedient his entire existence. What happened to him? Adam alayhi salam committed a mistake, and he was brought to earth and given a rank that is the highest rank amongst all creation, which is Nabuwah. So in other words, Iblis' perfection led to his downfall. Adam alayhi salam's imperfection led to his elevation. Sometimes sin, Allah uses even to elevate people. But the reason why I'm saying we shouldn't say that for everyone, obviously, is like, some bozo out there is going to be like, oh yeah, see, if I just go do whatever I want, then I'll be elevated. Allah will accept me. And so yeah, you're right. Not every sin always has a repercussion. In fact, sometimes some sins, Allah uses it to elevate people. But after they make tawbah, that's the other part, right? After they.
So one thing to learn is to never look down on people. No matter what they are doing.
Absolutely.
Because it might be the act might be wrong. Obviously it's wrong, but don't hate the person.
Right, don't hate the person. Never look down. And also the second thing that I added to that, which is very important, be careful of the words we use. That's also part of our actions. Both our actions and the words we use accumulate to make what we are. So in other words, when you see somebody never use like statements like, that is so bad, I would never do that. Don't say that. That's so bad, it's so disgusting, and laugh and mock at people, because when you do that, you're showing your own arrogance, and sometimes Allah will put you through it just to show you you're not so special. I promise this is the last point. I'll wrap it up inshallah in 2 minutes. There's actually a very famous incident about this that is written in books of history. There's a sheikh in Andalus that basically, the long story short, is when he was traveling with his students, he saw a Christian family in Spain. It's Muslim Spain, but there's Muslims and Jews and everyone's living there. So he saw a Christian family who were pig farmers. That was their, they had pigs and he looked down on them for a second. In his heart, not even in his tongue. In his heart, he looked at him and he said to himself, how could people do something so pathetic? So zalil, right? Like it's so lowly, farming pigs. And what did the law do to him? This is actually written in books. He accidentally looked at the daughter of this man, the farmer. Accidental glance. He saw her, and she was very pretty, and she was like whatever outside somewhere, and he saw her, and Allah controls the hearts. Guess what happened? He fell in love. that's bad. He said, he's just like that. Allah just hit him. Bam! I have to talk to her father. He turned around, knocked on the door, and proposed. And the father said, well, on one condition, anything you want. You see, love is such a disease, mashallah. Right? And he said, okay, anything you want, I'll do it. He said, become Christian and help us herd the pigs. Sad part, he did it. He left Islam, became Christianity, and now started herding pigs. And this happened for a long time. All of his students are worried about him. They don't know what happened. This is the big sheikh. Right? So what in the world? He's wearing a cross, herding pigs. And they kept on making dua for him. Finally, one day he showed up. He accepted Islam again, all that good stuff. And they asked him what happened. He said, Allah taught me a lesson. What lesson was that? As I looked down on those people, for even a millisecond, I looked down on them and I said, they're disgusting and pathetic. And Allah showed me the hard way. You don't control anything. It just takes one girl. You had one look in your heart. You just, put you in love, and you sold out everything. Your religion, your pride, everything is gone. So don't look down on people. You see what I'm saying? That was the big lesson for him. And I don't ever look down on anyone, no matter what they're doing. Just like you see, you hate the act. That's the key. You don't like the act. Why? Not even because of the people, because it's between Allah and His creation. It's haram, right? But don't look down on them and say, oh, how pathetic. Then Allah will try you. Just to teach you the lesson. Oh yeah, that's pathetic? Watch, you'll do the same thing. You understand? Watch. If I want, you'll do the exact same thing. So that's the key lesson of that as well. If sometimes that kind of pride and that unfortunate state, pride is the worst sin. If you want to sum it all up, what was the first sin committed in the entire universe? Drinking, fornicating, stealing, murder. What was it? Pride. It's the first sin. وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. It's the first sin that led to kufr. All these other sins that I committed, can a believer do it? Can a believer kill someone, murder someone? It's in the Quran. They can commit that sin. Can they commit zina? Yes. Can they steal? Yes. You understand all these other major sins I mentioned? Can a believer do it? It is fine. They're still believers. But when Allah said that Iblis was proud, the next thing He said after that was وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. He became an unbeliever. Through what? Pride. See what I'm saying? Through that pride, he became a disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the other sins, they're major sins, they're not good, no doubt, but at the end of the day, the person is still a believer. They can make tawbah. And sometimes, like I said, even sometimes those major sins even create in a person a state that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises their rank. Right? They raise their rank. You can see that even now. I mean, you can go to our prison system and see people who become Muslim who are in jail for things like manslaughter, and then what Allah does to them, how they become. Ajib. How Allah changes people like that. They could have committed whatever you could imagine, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes them. You see it a lot. There was a man in jail for manslaughter who took shahada, and the sheikh told him about parents and the rights of parents and how you should respect your father and your mother. And his father, who abandoned him, left his mother and him, as happens a lot in these situations. He wrote a letter to his father after he learned this, and just saying to him that no matter what happened, I still love you, and I still want to know you, and whatever happened, and I'm not, so imagine that. Even someone here, I won't give a name, but even somewhere here in Pittsburgh, the same thing happened. His father left him and his mother when he was young. He had wanted no contact with his son or anyone, and he had reached out to his own father in that situation and said, come and visit us. And when his father came, he gave him so much. Islam taught him to be so good to his father. He was feeding him. He even did things not even part of the code. He washed his feet and all that crazy. He just did all of these things. And his father ended up becoming Muslim because he was just blown away. This child should hate me, and rightfully so. I abandoned him. This child wanted nothing to do with me. But I came here and I didn't know what to do. The guy was feeding me and putting me up on the sitting below me and washing my feet and talking to me so politely, and it's like, whoa, you know, it's almost like you're scared for a second, like, what is all this? And then he actually ended up accepting Islam. I mean, that's the beauty of it all, right? To that extent, I mean, wouldn't you be upset too if your father abandoned you like that? Never even called once, never came to the house, never even visited you one time just to say, my son, mashallah, how are you? Nothing. But these brothers, mashallah, they overcame that, and they actually reached out to these people and showed them love and respect because of Islam. SubhanAllah. I mean, what is that? How people can change, how Allah Ta'ala can take what you may think is like a very bad situation and make it into something really beautiful. Remember we said earlier, the ayah, تُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ, take the night of the day, the night of the night. These are the things Allah does. May Allah help us and make it easy for us. And may Allah help us also in these predicaments, also the things that we talked about, to be smart enough. That's why also, before we make any choices about these things, if you ever want to go out and like, whatever, run for whatever it is, and you want to be a social justice warrior, whatever, marhaban bikun, do what you got to do. But we should always consult each other and consult the ulama. Make sure that you don't say or do things that puts us in a position where, like, you contribute more to the destruction of Islam more than you do actually protecting it. Okay, so no doubt we should be active. Alhamdulillah, forgive me, it's the only time you'll probably hear me talk patriotic things, but alhamdulillah, we live in the United States of America. At least we still have the freedom of expression and freedom of religion, you understand? Because if we were in any other place, we might not get that, and they would actually force us to do and say certain things. We still have it. Don't be that scared. Use their own paradigm. This is the freedoms you gave us, and we love it, right? So yay. MashaAllah. May Allah accept this. MashaAllah.